So, final film of Saturday night, Romford Film Festival, and I have Kemal, Michael and Ro from Burnt Flowers. So, Burnt Flowers has been doing the circuit for a little while now. What is this, your fifth or sixth?
I'll have to ask Lou, actually. I think it's, what, fourth or fifth? Who said that? Fourth. Thank you, Lou.
So let's do this slightly differently. I'm going to start with you, Michael. Talk to us about your inspirations. So who are your filming idols?
I mean, to be honest with you, it's difficult just to have just one filming idol because sort of, you know, cinema is sort of so broad, and there were so many things that kind of went into inspiring Burnt Flowers. Big sort of point of reference, a British filmmaker called Michael Powell, who I'll spend all day talking about if people ask me about. I saw those films growing up, films like The Red Shoes and Black Narcissus, and they really had a sort of huge impact on me just in terms of the sort of weird and very intense visuals that was involved there. I also really sort of fell in love with a film called Performance, which is a sort of very strange psychedelic gangster film that I saw way back in, I think, these sort of like early 80s, and I didn't really know that you could make films like that. I thought films had to be very sort of linear and genre-wise very sort of traditional. So yeah, sort of films of Michael Powell, Performance. And I also really love this sort of French gangster films of Jean-Pierre Melville. I've always really loved those, that kind of take on the Hollywood gangster film that he did, and brought a very sort of French element to it. And final one, probably that sort of strange cult filmmaker Jean Rollin, who just, you know, just always surprised and frustrated in equal measure, but was always very watchable.
When we watch the film, one of the things that I think really stands out is the amount of scene cuts, lots of different camera angles.
Yeah.
Obviously, Kemal, you were cinematographer on this. How much of that is you? How much of that is Michael's direction?
It's complete collaboration. The way that me and Michael work, we discussed in length on the kind of visual style that we wanted to go for. So, I mean, I didn't shoot every single frame of that. Some of that is actually Michael himself, because I didn't come onto the project from the beginning. I came on, I think...
We can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
It's on, it's just, yeah.
I just need to shout, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a complete and utter collaboration between me and Michael. I didn't come onto the project from the very beginning. I kind of came on a couple of, one shoot into production. Yeah. But me and Michael had heavy discussions on the look that we wanted and the style of the way the camera was going to move and the kind of emotion that was going to be attached to the shots and the way that Michael wanted to do it. So he's a director with an absolute vision of what he wants. It's a very clear vision, but he also allows us to play and bring our own to it. So it's a very much of a collaborative process. So it's both our brains really on there together.
Ro, where did you get pulled in, and how did they entice you into this project?
I actually originally auditioned for the role of Frank.
Yeah.
I did, and they got back to me and said, like, actually, the way you look and like the way you act, we can imagine you more in this role of Kathleen. And they gave me like full brief on her and everything, and I was actually really happy to get that role because she was awesome. And I really enjoy portraying characters that have like a darker side and get to do all those cool things.
And how easy does that come to you, that darker side?
Probably shouldn't say this, but it comes very easy.
And you're always really cool with the blood, which we loved. You're always going, more blood, more blood.
Honestly, the blood was the best part of the whole thing. It's just, I am a sucker for fake blood.
So let's talk. Sorry.
I just want to say something about her performance.
Yeah,
because
it's incredible.
It's incredible because it's completely wordless.
Yeah.
The whole performance is wordless.
Yeah.
It's just that charisma that she has on camera. And when you do switch your camera on, Ro, she just sparkles on camera. She's incredible to film. And she was so easy to light and film. It was incredible. Like, that performance that she gave is, it's a very difficult performance to give because a lot of the time, because I've acted myself, you rely on the dialogue to kind of push you through a scene. She had none of that. It was literally just her physicality and her chemistry, and she was incredible.
And when we came to edit it, you're like literally looking at virtually every frame a row, and it's kind of like, which ones do we use? Because camera presence is a strange thing, because it's some people just have it and it can't be taught. People just seem to have this kind of charisma just on screen. And the thing is, when I was editing Ro's dance at the end, she never blinks. And when the blood comes down, if ever you've got stage blood in your eyes, it hurts because it's full of sugar, and I don't know what else is in it, but she never blinks. And just all this blood came down, and you just carried on dancing. And she had kind of learnt the routine, and I sort of said, actually, I've got an idea. Would you be happy to do this? And she went, yeah. But yeah, I was just always just so pleased with kind of like that final dance, which I just, dance is one of the themes that runs through the film anyway, and I just sort of think that, yeah, it just blew us away when we actually looked at the rushes of that.
So let's go back to the origins of Burnt Flowers. Where did the idea come from, and how did you kind of piece it all together?
I, like the rest of the world, in March 2020, found myself with a lot of extra time on my hands. And I just started thinking about, several ideas came to me. And one of them was, there's a famous unsolved 1960s serial killer case, which was dubbed by the press at the time the Jack the Stripper murders. Largely because, unfairly, a couple of the women were dancers in West End clubs. They weren't strippers. But the press, because they wanted to title him with Jack the Ripper, called it that and sensationalised this. But the guy was never caught who did it, and there's often been speculation as to who it was. And I started thinking about, well, what could cause a serial killer to stop? And the obvious sort of things are, well, they go to jail or they are killed. But then I thought, well, what about if it was actually a female serial killer and she became pregnant? And then the kind of pressures of having a child meant that she stopped being a kind of sort of thrill killer. And one of the other ideas that's kind of explored in the film is that idea of what do you inherit from your parents? Do you inherit a capacity for violence, killing, sexual proclivities and things like that? Or is this something that it kind of comes as a result of your own development? And I just really like that idea that kind of this character can create all of this chaos. This one person can create all of this chaos and cause all of these deaths across generations. And I just really like that idea of one individual can cause all this mayhem. So that's kind of, I suppose, the sort of genesis of how the script began.
And sticking with you for a little bit longer, ignoring the mercury, talk us through the film in locations and some of your, more unique props like cars, things like that. Where does all this come from? Some of those locations, how did you pick them?
I mean, to be honest with you, we were really fortuitous with the location. In the producer Lou was actually involved with something else, and we sort of wanted somewhere a kind of 1990s office to film for a CID office. We sort of said, look, we need a kind of police office. And Lou gets this phone call from a friend who sort of says, we got a building that's got old offices in that we don't use. But the building they were talking about is the one that you see. That whole building is mothballed and it's not used. And we can't actually really say where it is. We're not allowed to say where it is. It was actually used in a 1970s children's show, but I can't actually tell you what that one is without giving it away either, its location. But it's a strange place. So it's reputed to be haunted, and we had some strange occurrences there, but that's a whole other Q&A. But really, we were very fortuitous with that. And our sound guy, Nick, one of those cars, the old the Hillman that you see, which is the white sort of 1960s car, belongs to his uncle, who is one of the gangsters you see at the end on the kind of balcony with the shotgun. Because originally in the script I wanted a Zodiac, and Nick, our sound guy, just sort of said, well, I've got a Hillman and it's in perfect condition because it's my uncle's car. And then Mark, who plays Hallows, Detective Hallows, he's got several old cars, one of which is that Merc, which the week before had been used in a Jim Broadbent movie. So it's a 1990s Merc, and I just sort of said to Mark, any chance that you could actually let us have that? So we borrowed, we scrounged, but we were extremely lucky with those sort of props and locations. And in no small part, you know, as Kem sort of says, it is that collaboration. But I think Kem's cinematography really got that mileage out of those vehicles and that location. You know, you can have the best location and props in the world, but if they're just not shown off through a skilled DP, then, you know, it just doesn't really bring value to the screen.
So, you know, probably, you know, you've been quite open about the fact that you don't really have any budget.
No, I don't have any money.
To shoot something that's quite ambitious, and the financial restraints of that, how do you put all that together?
Honestly, I work a day job and I save up, and we haven't actually done any crowdfunders yet. It's not something I'm averse to, but we sell merch on our site. T-shirts, £20, DVDs, £10. And the other thing as well is, you know, we just kind of call in favours, and that's how it gets done. And so we were speaking earlier in the day about collaboration, the collaborative process of filmmaking. And, you know, Andrew Elias, Kemal, Mark Lawrence, all of these people, you know, they helped us out. And, you know, in turn, you know, you repay those favours. You know, nobody can do this by themselves. And to be honest with you, there is a hell of a lot of positivity within micro-budget horror. And I think everybody pitches in, and that's how we get stuff done, because we can't compete with the majors. We're never going to compete with the majors. We're never going to have that money. But if we help each other out, then all of our productions get better.
Ro, what was the biggest challenge of the film for you?
Biggest challenge? I mean, obviously there's some quite rowdy scenes in there. That was a bit of a challenge. I mean, it was fine because I mean, I was working with all these people I felt very comfortable with, and it wasn't scary or like uncomfortable in any way. But obviously, in those scenes, you have to be so serious and so mysterious and sexy. It's just hard when, I don't know, you kind of just want to like giggle through it. Like, oh, this is so silly. But, yeah, I think that's the hardest part, but I think we got through it quite well.
No, I really think you did. I mean, I just again watching it, the size of that image, and just your eyes just seems to, you know, burn out the screen. And I think the stuff you was doing with Mel, who plays Austin, as I say, that was pretty raunchy. But actually, sort of that very sort of small, it's actually a lot smaller than that set than you realise, so it was a bit cramped at times, with sort of like, you know, sort of me at the doorway and sort of Kem in there with a camera, you know. But no, I just couldn't be happier with what we managed to achieve.
What did you shoot on, Kem?
It was shot Black Magic. We just shot it, a lot of it raw, so then we could get that 60s look that we wanted to try and create. So I lit it in a certain way that kind of resembled the way 60s films are shot, and then we graded it in a way that then capitalised on that look. So we shot it on Black Magics, but managed to get that 60s feel and look to it. And also you have to give props to Lou for her production design, because the production design for the 60s stuff really helped us create that kind of 60s look. So.
Yeah.
Of course, it's hard to do production design without any money.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And maintain that across a feature.
Yeah.
You know, it's, what is it, 99 minutes, and you've got to kind of think about all those different locations. So not just the 60s one. The CID office has to look like it's a cop's office. You know, it can't just look like, you know, a room or an office. And so you have to think about all of those details. And literally, this is years worth of work. You know, from beginning to end. This is 4 years worth of work, and we were just sourcing material. My sort of sister's got like a sort of vintage business, and so I lent fairly heavily on her. So a lot of the curtains and that you see, and actually 60s curtains are really hard to get hold of, but we managed to get hold of some 1960s curtains and crockery and stuff like that. And the costumes as well, you know, we always had a very strong idea in terms of colour. So Ro is often associated either with white or red, her character of Kathleen Auburn. And then other characters are associated with other kind of things depending on where they are in the narrative. So early on, Tony Rose is red, and then he kind of moves to blue as he's aged. And then, of course, some of the characters don't age at all.
Which, is there a particular scene that you really loved filming? Something that kind of really kind of blew your mind, any of you, really? You know, because there's, I'm asking this question a lot this year, because for me, there's always those scenes when I made film 100 years ago that it was like, I couldn't believe we managed to pull that shit together.
Yeah.
Because some external force or whatever upsets it. Was there any part of that you just thought, yeah, I've got exactly what I wanted. Maybe I got better than what I wanted.
What was your favourite scene?
Take a guess.
Was it the blood at the
Yeah,
end? Yeah, I thought it was. You always so seem to really enjoy stabbing Aviana.
I really did.
I mean, that's a genuine passion there.
It was so hard, like getting sprayed with the blood as well, and I was like trying to keep my eyes open, but it was like, but it was really fun.
How about you?
I really like that kind of, just the last kind of 10 minutes with all of those, that great, what you call a one-er, so an unbroken shot, which we kind of follow the Frank Auburn character like through a door, down some stairs, and I just really like that. And I just really like the sort of fluidity we were able to get just with those final sort of scenes. But yeah, I mean, you know, Rose final dance, I mean, what we wanted with those kind of closing scenes was literally for the 60s and the 90s to sort of bleed together as they literally do. And I just, you know, even now watching that on a big screen, you know, it's kind of like, wow. You know, I'm just so pleased with that. You know, I'm extremely happy with the sort of last 10 to 15 minute kind of sort of, you know, finale.
One thing we've not really spoken about is score.
Yeah,
Do you want to just talk a little bit about the score for the film?
Yeah, the score is by Nick Burns, who is a long-time collaborator. Nick also is the sound guy on set. And Nick is just a phenomenally talented music producer in his own right, and songwriter and musician. He's in numerous bands. And the speed at which Nick can actually compose music is incredible. And I kind of, normally when you edit, you have these kind of, you know, what you sort of call, you know, your reference tracks. So the pieces of music you really want or really would like if you had the budget. But of course, a lot of these, you know, nice hippie 60s bands have got really nasty lawyers who won't let you use their music unless you give them millions. So I kind of started off with some kind of sort of 60s music, and I sort of said to Nick, look, this is the kind of sort of vibe and feel I want throughout. The final piece of music was literally one of the last pieces that he composed, and I actually sat and watched him do it. So he's watching the final, you know, the scene that you've just seen, and he literally just composed that on the fly, and he plays all the instruments. So he built it up from like drums, bass, guitar, and the organ, and yeah, the man's a complete virtuoso, and he just did all of these. We had some kind of, you know, obviously, you know, Stones and the Doors and various kind of bands like this that we were sort of listening to, as well as sort of some of those sort of 60s, you know, beat, sort of like The Who and what have you. But I'm still blown away by the music. I mean, you know, we don't have the budget for, you know, paying for the kind of music we would like, and so to get something just really high quality like we got there, I'm just extremely happy about. And also, you know, just how it fits so perfectly, the visuals, because sometimes it doesn't. You know, you get music and you kind of say, I like the music, but it's not really going with that. But no, I'm really extremely happy about Nick and what he brought to the project.
They say that behind every great man is a great woman.
Yes, indeed.
So, you know, it's when you talk to anybody that's involved in the film, everyone points the finger in a certain direction.
Yeah, but she won't come up here because she's too shy.
We made her last time, didn't we?
I think we did force her last time. Well, you forced her.
Yeah.
I'm not getting involved in that.
Come on up. You know, lose a driving force behind so much of what you do. We spoke earlier on in our conversation about the social media and the feeding of the social media. How much, this is going to be a tough one for you, how much do you think, you know, say for example, if she wasn't there, how much of that completed picture do you think would be missing? Where would you get that skill from?
I mean, to be honest, it wouldn't be there. It's that simple, and I'm not being facetious, because you cannot do everything, and you cannot think that you can do everything. And, you know, to be honest with you, you need somebody to kind of do that organisational stuff. And that is a phenomenal amount of work. It really is. And probably out of all of us, I think Lou ends up working the hardest.
She does about 10 people's jobs
Yeah.
on set. That's not even a joke.
Yeah.
Well, even now, you know.
Even now, she's actually filming this for social media. So, yeah, I mean, she says she does 10 people's jobs. And to be honest with you, if you want to make a successful film, you need organisation. You can't just show up and switch on a camera and hope it's going to work. The props have to be sourced. You've got to work out the schedule, and the schedule has to be efficient so that you're not wasting time and you're able to kind of shoot quickly. Every minute on set, effectively, you're burning money. So if you can kind of do that quickly, you save money, and that then kind of frees you up to do other things. So the short answer is we couldn't do it. You know, we couldn't do it without Lou. Don't be embarrassed. And really, you can't do it by yourself. You know, kind of I rely on, you know, we are a team, we do collaborate, and none of us, you know, is ever going to kind of like succeed by ourselves. You have to find the right people. You know, we've been saying this pretty much all day, haven't we? With a decent team around you, you can pretty much do anything. And, you know, you're talking about the ambitious nature of, you know, what we created. And, you know, I know there's a few filmmakers in here now. You know, don't be kind of constricted by sort of like thinking, no, I can't do that. Because somehow you find a way. And, you know, you all right, you have to make compromises, but eventually you will find a way. I mean, I never really thought we'd be able to get away with a car chase and guns, but we did. And I think it can be done if you've got a kind of good team around you and people doing all the organisation, like, you know, reaching out to the appropriate bodies for, you know, use of replica weapons and what have you. But
yeah, we would have probably been arrested if it weren't for Lou, basically.
yeah, we'd all be in jail now if it weren't for Lou.
So we've already asked you, Kemal, what is next for you in the previous interview. Ro, what's next for you?
There's something in the works that I can't really talk about, but something's coming.
Sounds like Fight Club. Michael?
We are filming this summer for what will be our third feature film, and I'm being very tight-lipped about it because, again, it's another ambitious project, and it's one of those I'm kind of thinking, can we do this? Because when it comes to writing, I don't really restrict myself, but, well, and it surprised a few people when I first started talking about this, it's a time travel romance. Yes, it is. That's what we are making. We are making a time travel romance with elements of horror and science fiction.
There you go.
Interesting.
God knows how we're going to do it. But that is what we're doing.
If you could make, and you know, budget wasn't in the way, you could make any sort of film that wasn't in the genre of here and exit, what would you make? Other than your future science fiction, romantic, time travel thing.
Project I really want to make, and I will make, I have an idea for a punk film.
Okay.
And nobody, I don't think, has ever done a proper, decent punk film, you know. But I really want to kind of, I've got an idea for a punk film that I want to do. And again, it'd be very different to everything else. But the difficulty with trying to pull off a punk film is, of course, hair. So if we're going to be giving people mohawks, that is going to kind of bring a whole set of problems. And I do have an idea, and I've always wanted to do this kind of punk movie, being an old punk, and actually be able to, you know, if money's no object, to actually get some of that kind of, you know, original music from that period. But yeah, stay tuned, because the punk sort of punk movie will happen at some point. again, I don't think it would particularly be horror, but again, just that idea of a kind of central character whose reality is kind of shifting between two sort of time frames. I like this idea of playing with time frames, as we did in Burnt Flowers, we actually did in Exit, and also what we'll be doing with our forthcoming film.
Just before I close, just to go back onto the music, because you've mentioned punk, so music's obviously a huge passion in there.
Yes.
You can't have punk without having music.
Certainly can't.
And not dismissing Nick's work, but if money wasn't an issue and licensing wasn't an issue, what music would you have liked to have put into Burnt Flowers? Are there any specific tracks that you think that would have been, you know, when you're writing, you've got these songs in your head. Talk to us about some of those.
Yeah, I mean, too many to really mention. I mean, there's a song by the 13th Floor Elevators, which I really liked, and that was initially what the piece of music was, at the end, just this very long kind of meandering sort of 60s piece. Yeah, the Rolling Stones, I mean, all what you'd pretty much expect, but also some of that kind of darker garage stuff. So a lot of these American bands, they heard the Beatles, but then went off and made their own stuff. And, you know, I think it was a really interesting time, both in the UK and the US, the 60s, that produced some really interesting, innovative music and production techniques. So, yeah, I mean, if I had a kind of wish list, it would probably be, you know, some Rolling Stones stuff. But no one can afford that.
Because it's midnight, I think everyone's in a coma. I don't have a roving mic, but what I wanted to know is, have we got any questions out there? And do you mind shouting them? No? Wonderful. Listen, midnight, 5 past midnight.
Not bad.
Burnt Flowers team, thank you very much.
Thank
Big round of applause.
Cheers, guys.